What's going on, guys? I am Toxic Jordan. Welcome back to the channel. So we're going to jump in here and do an EZA team building guide for the new TEQ Full Power Super Saiyan 4 Goku here. So the category weakness here, there's no actual event info for it yet, other than on this Dokkan info website, because the event just got announced right now. So I'm getting this guide out quick for you guys, so it'll be out by the time the event is live later tonight. But the category weakness here is GT bosses, as you guys can see. So this is going to be a rough one, for sure. I don't imagine that they're going to make this EZA too hard, because this is the category. This is it. So obviously these are just the SSRs. So this is the whole category right here. This is every unit in the game that's on GT bosses. So unless you're a long-time Dokkan player, I doubt that you have all of these units. And the other problem with that is that even if you do have all of them, about half of them are pretty outdated and unrunnable. So, yeah, let's just get right into it. And we're going to be looking at almost all of the units that you see here, just because, you know, you don't have that many options. So I'm just going to be running through each of the units and giving you my take on how usable they are. And then at the end, stick around for it too, or I guess you could skip ahead. If you're missing a lot of these GT Heroes units, I'm actually going to give a couple of suggestions for non-GT bosses builds that you could potentially run in this EZA without using the type effective category. Now, keep in mind, I haven't played the EZA yet because it's not out, so I don't know how hard it's going to be, but sometimes it's you're able to get away with just using like extreme int, you know, versus a super tech EZA or something, and you don't actually have to use the type effective category. So we'll be going over a couple of strategies that you could do there at the end as well. But first, let's get started here. So this is the very first unit that I want to highlight, because he is a very strong unit, one of the only strong units on GT bosses right now, and he is an int type, so he's going to have type advantage. That is going to be a really, really big deal for this EZA. He is also a GT bosses leader, so if you don't have any other units that lead GT bosses, this is a good one for you to use. 130% is about the highest you're going to get. 150% is the highest that you'll see coming up here. So 130% really isn't that bad, especially if you're able to have 150% friend lead. Then you're really not going to be missing that many stats. So this guy does some decent damage. Obviously, he's not going to have his stun chance active in an EZA. So he gets, you know, an additional attack and defense 70% on super attack. So he looks better in slot 2 than slot 1, because he's getting a lot of defense raises after supering. Okay, and then he's not going to be getting the additional key because you won't be able to status affect the enemy. But he is going to be supporting the category. Every other unit on the category is going to be getting key 3 and attack and defense 30%. So that is really, really good. And then you're not going to be seeing his active skill either, because that's turn 7. So let's keep in mind that this guy is a Big Bad Bosses unit. We're going to be keeping track of how many Big Bad Bosses units we're using here, because that is going to be a very important link to try and have active during the entirety of this EZA. Because obviously it's like one of the strongest links in the game, and it's just going to help you out so much with this probably being a lackluster team going into this. Okay, so next unit I wanted to highlight on here is this STR Metarildo. If you've got him EZA'd, he is really, really solid defensively. He gets 120% defense at the start of turn, and he gets these great defense raises as well. He gets 120% attack on super, so that hits pretty hard. And then he is a GT Bosses category support as well. He's doing defense 40% for the entire category. And then this is the kicker too. He also gets an additional attack and defense 60% and attacks effective against all types. And then a stun chance, which he's not going to be able to proc. When there is a GT Heroes category enemy. There is a GT Heroes category enemy because we're fighting a GT Heroes here. So he is going to be getting this additional stat buff, and he's going to be attacks effective against all types. So essentially, he is going to be an int type unit as well. Defensively, obviously, he won't be, but it doesn't matter because his defense is actually really, really solid. Especially after you get a couple of additional attacks in. So yeah, if you're able to, you know, have some additionals in his hidden potential system and get some additional defense raises, and then this great defense raise, especially if you're able to do that twice in a turn, he is going to look very, very solid defensively. And then, yeah, he's going to be defensively supporting the rest of the rotation as well. This guy also has big bad bosses, so he is going to be another really, really solid option for this EZA. So next one that I think would come as no surprise is this AGL Super 17. You know, obviously he's not going to be doing too much damage because he has type disadvantage, but he does have his damage reduction mechanic here. So after he takes a few hits, I don't recommend putting him in slot 1 right away, because he does get this great defense raise on Super, which is going to help out his defense quite a bit while he only has the 40% damage reduction. But then once he takes a few hits, and he's able to build up that extra 30%, when he's at 70% damage reduction, he's going to be tanking pretty well. And if you don't have any better options for a slot 1 unit, then he could do decent for you. I can't say that he's going to be tanking everything for double digits. He might get you in trouble if he gets super attacked right away, but he could be very good. And then also he's giving target Goku allies some crit chance as well, which is a nice little bonus because there are quite a few target Goku allies on GT, as every single GT boss in the game is after Goku, so they're basically all on target Goku. This guy, unfortunately, is not a big bad bosses unit, so that's one thing to note here with him. Okay, so next up we've got the TEQ Super 17 LR. He is going to be really solid for this as well. He's type neutral, so not the worst. He has a little bit of build up here, so he gets, you know, 170% at the start of turn, and then he gets an additional 17% per androids attacking in the same turn. So I guess if you have the AGL Super 17 there as well, but they're obviously not going to link together because they have the same name, you're probably not going to be seeing much of that part of his passive. But then this part, the additional attack and defense 17% per target Goku ally attacking in the same turn, you'll definitely see the buffs from that because there's going to be a lot of target Gokus here. And then he also gets this little bit of damage reduction and some additional attacks after receiving an attack. And he gets that for 3 turns. So that can be nice too. And then he also is going to be building up some ki over time with each attack that he takes. You won't be seeing his active skill either because he's not going to receive 7 attacks. And he is also not a big bad bosses unit. So yeah, he's another decent option. He's just going to be putting out some decent damage, putting out some decent defense. He's another good filler unit to throw in here. Nothing too insane. This guy is going to be pretty good for this EZA. After you get him EZA'd, he is pretty solid defensively. He does take a few turns to stack up here, because each attack he performs, he's getting 10% attack and defense up to 70, so he needs to perform 7 attacks before he is fully built up. He does get an additional built into his passive, so if you also have a hidden potential system additional coming out, then by the end of the second turn, he could be almost fully built up already, so that is pretty good. But yeah, he can look very good defensively, especially after getting his super attack and having some of these stat raises go off. And he's also a big bad bosses unit as well, so he is going to be a pretty solid option. I want to note that you can technically run a Shadow Dragon Saga team here. You can. It's not wise. It's not the best option, just because there's not that many good units on GT bosses that are on Shadow Dragons as well. But it is a possibility. You could do it. Ooh, actually, I have an interesting idea I might add to the end of the video because of this Shadow Dragon's leader skill right here. Oh, but I did want to quickly mention, this is going to be one of your main GT bosses leaders. You're going to want to use this guy potentially as your leader because he's 150% lead to GT bosses there. So yeah, his leader skill could be used, I suppose. Wouldn't be bad because then you'd have a couple of these guys under 170% leader skill, which wouldn't be the worst thing. Okay, so moving on here, we have the TEQ Sin Shenron that just came out in the 7th anniversary. He's not going to be bad. He's going to be helping this team get some ki, because I don't think this team links up the best with itself, and it does struggle for ki a little bit. So him having the Rainbow Orb changing is going to be nice. But even if you just are selfish with the ki and give it all to him, then he is going to be, you know, hitting decently hard. He'll be putting out some decent damage and stuff. I would say if you're going to have him on the key, you're really going to want to try and get those 7 or more key spheres so that he can get that high chance of launching his additional attack. That is going to be really helpful for him because he gets the defense raise on super, so he'll be getting a double raise and then also putting out some extra damage. He is also technically a leader you could use if you don't have any other GT bosses. He's 130% to stats for GT bosses, so he's potential leader there, and he is a big bad bosses unit as well, so he's going to be usable for that link. Okay, so another unit I wanted to highlight on is the AGL Super Baby 2 here. He, I guess, could be decent for you. He's going to be one of the harder hitting units on this category, just because he's an LR, he's got high stats, and this guy does hit decently hard. The problem is he's AGL, and so he's going to have type disadvantage, and that's going to be a really big bummer. But he does get this additional key 3 and attack 50% because we're going to be fighting a Pure Saiyan, so that is nice. And then he also has this giant ape form turn that he is potentially going to be able to go into if your HP is low, which is the only thing. So this guy could be decent. He does have big bad bosses as well, so he could be a good just slot 3 unit for you to keep that link active for people, potentially. So like if you're wanting to run like the AGL Super 17 in slot 1 as a tanking unit, then he's not going to be supporting whoever is your slot 2 unit that may have big bad bosses, so it could be smart to run units like this in slot 3 to be able to keep big bad bosses active so that your slot 2 unit is hitting harder and has more defense and stuff. So yeah, could be a good idea. Okay, so the Oceanus Shenron here, she is going to be decent. She does have type advantage, so that is a good thing to note. Her leader skill, probably not usable. If you're going to be going the Shadow Dragons route, I would definitely recommend using Omega Shenron's leader skill rather than this. That's pretty low. 120% is probably not going to get it done for you. She is raising defense on super attack, so that's going to help her out. And then she has 120% stats at the start of turn. Basically, everything else in her kit is dependent on status effects that you can't do to the enemy. So the rest of it doesn't matter. So that's basically it for her. So she is going to be another nice like slot 3 unit just to kind of have here because she has type advantage and she's on the type effective category. She won't get you killed or anything, but she isn't going to be doing anything too impressive or helpful on the team. She doesn't have any support for the rest of the rotation. She doesn't have big bad bosses. So yeah, she's just going to kind of be there. Okay, now this is the bottom of the stack here. These are just fill-in units that I'm going to show off because they do have some potential use, but I really don't recommend using them. If you can build a full team out of all the units that I just showed you, then do that. Don't use any of these units down here. But if you're still missing some units and you can't build a full team yet, then take a look at these last 4 and see if any of these can help you out too. Okay, so the Sin Shenron here, once he is Extreme Z Awakened, he's not bad. He is going to give a defense raise on super, so that's going to help out his defense a little bit here. He has 100% stats at the start of turn, and then he also gets defense and crit chance 7% per GT bosses on the team. So if you have a full GT bosses team, which you should, then you're going to have 35% defense added onto this. So that's not the highest. 135% defense with 11,000 as his defense stat is not the worst. It's alright. He is type neutral, so at least he's like not type disadvantage or anything like that. If this guy was like AGL, I would say definitely don't use him. But he also does have big bad bosses, so that can help you out as well. So yeah, definitely not bad there. Oh wow. This Shadow Dragon's link is really good. Attack and defense 20%. Okay, wow. So any Shadow Dragons that you're bringing, let me just really quickly check. She has the Shadow Dragons link. Yeah, he has a Shadow Dragons link. Okay, so that is a good thing to note. If you're using a lot of those other Shadow Dragons cards on the team, that is going to up his value, because this Shadow Dragons link is actually really good. Attack and defense 20%, that's not bad. That's comparable to Big Bad Bosses. That's really not bad. Okay, so then I guess that does buff a little bit of what I'm going to say about these next units, too, because they're also Shadow Dragons. So that Shadow Dragons link, man, that's pretty good. Okay, so we have got the physical Nova Shenron here. He's only raising attack on super. Unfortunately, no defense raises there. He's getting 140% at the start of turn. He doesn't get this part because you're not attacking extreme class enemies, but then he does give 40% to, or he gets 40% attack and defense and 2 ki when there's a Shadow Dragon's enemy, and there is going to be a Shadow Dragon's enemy, so he is going to get that part. So he'll have 180% stats, but then no other defense raises or anything like that, and he doesn't have big bad bosses, but he does have Shadow Dragons. So yeah, his defense is actually really lackluster here. This guy could be really, really dangerous. He's definitely not recommended to use, but if you need to fill in with someone, he can have some good synergy with the team. And obviously you're not going to really have Shadow Dragon superclass allies on the team because we're doing extreme units on GT bosses here. So yeah, that's that guy. And then we've got the TEQ Nova Shenron. He is, again, another unit. He's not really getting any defense raises, just attack on super. And then he's got 90% stats. And then he's giving all the Shadow Dragon allies 30%, which is decent. So he's giving himself 120% total. He's got the Shadow Dragon's link. He doesn't have big bad bosses, and his defense is pretty low. So yeah, same deal here. Very, very mid. And then the last guy I wanted to mention here, almost kind of as a meme, this guy is horrible. Please don't use him, but if you really have no other options, I suppose you can throw him on your team. He's going to be doing absolutely nothing here. His stats are really low. Attack 100% is just not enough to do any damage, but he does have type advantage, so that's going to help him in the defense department. He doesn't have any defense in his passive at all. So he is completely dry, which means he's going to have 9,000 defense times whatever the leader skill is, basically. It's going to be extremely low. And so the main thing I wanted to mention here is he has type advantage. He does have big bad bosses, and he has the giant ape transformation potential. So that is the only thing that's relevant about this card, but he is definitely not going to be a reliable source for you. Okay, so really quick before we finish up here, because that is all the units that I had to go over, I'm going to switch over in-game really quick. Okay, so I wanted to show you guys a few potential options that you could use if you don't have a lot of GT bosses units. So, some EZAs you're able to actually just use just use a monotyping team. So it's going to be a TEQ EZA, so using int types would be good. And it's super TEQ, so you'd want to use extreme int. Now there's quite a few good extreme int characters. This is a really solid example of a build you could make. Having the int cell here as your leader could be good because he is an extreme int types, 120% to stats. So all the units on here are going to be getting 120% to stats. And then if any of them are Android Cell Saga, which includes himself, then they're going to be getting the greater stat raise there, the 170% portion of the leader skill. So this team I built here, I just threw on some of the best defensive extreme int units. Notice that I still threw, the Shadow Dragon army card here too, because he is on extreme int and he's on the type effective category, so it could be a good idea. You could also throw any of those other extreme int units that I mentioned, mainly just the Oceanus Shenron you could throw on here as well. But Broly, especially after he builds up and gets some stat raises, and he's got a little bit of damage reduction in his passive, he could do some decent tanking for you. Majin Vegeta has the same thing. If you're picking up all the orbs that he needs in his passive, then he is going to be getting some damage reduction, some additional defense and stuff, so he could be decent for you. He's also got an active skill. Can you use his active skill under these circumstances? Can be activated. Oh, okay, no, he has to receive 6 attacks, so you're probably not going to get that. But then these guys are really good because they actually absorb Ki Blast Supers, which is really, really good because this event does dish out Ki Blast Super attacks. So you are going to... Actually, I don't think the Dragon Fist... No, because he doesn't do a Kamehameha. He does a Dragon Fist that's not a Ki Blast Super attack. So they actually... Okay, so in hindsight, I would probably take them off and run the Oceanus Shenron instead, because, yeah, they're not going to be able to absorb Ki Blast Super attacks. Now, the Jason Birder here are going to be really good because they're still going to have all of their dodging. they've got the high chance to evade built into their passive, so they're going to be doing a really, really solid job dodging attacks for you as well. And their defense is not the worst either. So yeah, this is just a decent example of what you could do if you just had to run Extreme Int. And then another example I wanted to give is just running a generic Extreme class team. So you could do that as well. I think the best option for that would be to use the TEQ Janemba here. He's going to be giving 170% to Corroded Body and Mind, and then 130% to all Extreme class, which is going to be a decent buff. This is going to allow you to bring any GT bosses units that you have. So I just, for example, kind of threw on a few here. So we have the TEQ Super 17 and then the Shadow Dragon Army card. But let's say those are your only GT bosses category units. You could use him as the leader, throw your GT bosses on there, and then just fill out the rest of the team with strong defensive units, preferably int types. And then, like, you know, this Janemba is int type. And he is on Corroded Body and Mind as well. So he's going to be getting the 170% leader skill there. This int Namek Frieza I put on here as a decent option because he reduces damage received by 50% when his guard is active. And his guard is going to be active the whole time because, well, for two reasons. One, because he guards when there's a Goku family category enemy, and there will be. And also because he always has guard because we're going to be fighting a TEQ enemy. So he is going to be a really solid option here. I suppose I could have put him on the other, on this team as well. He could have been a good option to just sit here on this team too. So yeah, he could be a really good option for you. And then obviously you could bring the AGL Golden Frieza or the TEQ Golden Frieza. They're both going to do a really solid job tanking with their damage reduction active. Just be wary of the HP restrictions that they have for that. But yeah, so these are some really solid options. There's actually one other creative idea that I have here that I want to show you guys. I'm going to make a quick cut to build that team, and then I will show you that before we finish up here. Okay, so the last team that I wanted to show off here is potentially running a Shadow Dragons Saga team. It could be done. I think this team could have some potential against this event. Obviously, you know, the top 4 units that you're seeing here are all GT bosses, and then this is going to allow you to run the physical Omega as your friend lead as well. So you're going to have, you know, an extra GT bosses unit there as well. And also, this is your only opportunity to get all of your units under 170% leader skill, because if you have the Omega Shenron Easy 8 here, he's giving 170% stats, which is better than the best GT bosses leader that you could do, which is only 150% to stats. So this could make some of the strongest GT bosses units look even better here, which, like, this guy mainly is the one. With him on 170% leader skill, he's going to be carrying so much of the damage for you. It's going to be really good. And then, you know, having the int Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta here, he's going to have type advantage. He is super type, so that is not as good. But he does have his high chance to counter in his passive here, so that could save you some damage if he ends up dodging some super attacks for you. And then the LR Super Saiyan 4s, while they're super type as well, and they're going to be type neutral, they also have guard the first turn that they come out. So they are going to be pretty solid defensively for you too, especially because Easy A's generally don't last more than, you know, 2 or 3 turns, so you may only have to see them on rotation once, so you won't have to worry about them getting touched up too much. So yeah, I think this could be a really solid option. I'm actually going to try and use this team, I think, and see if this one has what it takes. So when I post my video on the Easy A itself, we'll be able to see if, you know, if if this team can make it or not, depending on whether I showcase this team in that video or not. Okay, so yeah, that is basically everything I have for you guys. That is the GT bosses you know, category. That's what it has to offer. It's not the best, but I hope that you're able to make a decent team with the tips that I've given you here today. And if you guys enjoyed what you saw, then consider coming over and being a part of the Toxic Tribe with a like, comment, and subscribe on the video. I'll be putting out plenty more guides like this all the time. I love doing guide videos, honestly, more than gameplay videos. I'm trying to gear my channel in the direction toward guide videos. So if you enjoy the guide videos, then, you know, follow me, and I will continue to put out good content just like this for you in the future. So that is going to do it for this one, and I will catch you guys next time. Peace!